Okay, a few more of these and I can go home. It's late here. It's 7:30, but I want to finish these up to get these to you. So I'm going to record them and then head home and upload them while I eat. Now, what are the solutions to the equation? I'm going to factor these. I'm just going to factor these. I'm going to say, how do we factor z squared minus 12z plus 36 equals 0? Okay, and I know that because the coefficient in the front is 1, then it must just be z and z. And because we have a positive number here, we have the same sign twice in both of these binomials, and this will tell us what they are. They're both negative. Okay? And how do we break down 36? With two negative numbers so that they multiply to be 36, and then they add to negative 12. And you might already be able to see this. We could list them all out, but you should know that 6 times 6 is 36. So is negative 6 times negative 6. And those two numbers add up to negative 12. Okay? So I didn't have to list everything, although you could if you need to, and then find out which two numbers add to negative 12. But I already know that negative 6 and negative 6 multiply to 36, and they add to negative 12. So those are both 6, z minus 6, z minus 6. That's the same number twice. So, right? So what are the solutions? Well, let's check. Let's take z minus 6, set it equal to 0. We only have to do it once because it's the same thing twice, right? Plus 6, z equals 6. So that is B. And how do you get the same number twice? You essentially have the graph of the curve only touching, not crossing. It's impossible to cross this x-axis and then not cross it again, coming back, right? But how do you hit it at least like exactly once? Because it's either not touching at all, or it's crossing, or the third option is to just come down and touch it, and that's it. So that's actually what's going to happen here at x equals 6. This curve comes down, touches, oops, comes down, touches at 6, and then goes back up again, just touching right there, but not crossing. Okay? That's the basic idea. Okay? So, but how do you find those points? You factor it. Okay? We didn't need to do the graph. I just wanted to show you that since it's one number twice, it's a perfect square. And what does that look like? That looks like touching the. Okay. So we've got 3z squared plus 3z minus 6 equals 0. And I noticed that they all have a 3 in them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just divide both sides by 3. We're allowed to do that. Divide this side by 3, and then divide this side by 3. Okay. Actually, well, I could show you another way, but if we do that, what we get is z squared plus z minus 2, and it equals 0 still because 0 divided by 3 is 0. The other method that you could have used, and I'm just going to, now that you can see that I did that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this. I'm going to just take that away for a second and say, we could have done as an intermediate step, let's factor out the 3. 3 parentheses, z squared plus z minus 2 equals 0, right? We're allowed to factor out a 3 and leave it out front. Still there, but then I can say, okay, well, now I'm using my algebra. I'm just allowed to divide by 3. And that will cross that, oops, that will cross that there, cancel there, and that 0 divided by 3 is just 0. So now we get this simplified form, much easier to solve, okay? And so we factor this and we say that's z, that's z. We've got one sign of each because this number here is negative. And how do we break down negative 2? We could say either 1 times negative 2 or negative 1 times positive 2. Which of those two add together to the b value of 1? Well, these two do. So we've got a positive 2 and a negative 1. And since they want to know what the solutions are, we have to take each one of those, set them equal to 0. Maybe z plus 2 is equal to 0, or z minus 1 is equal to 0. Solve them both. Minus 2, plus 1. And those are our two solutions. Z equals negative 2, z equals 1. And that's A. Okay, we're on our way. Keep going. All right. Since this does not have a constant term, c squared minus 10c, there's no constant term. It doesn't say plus or minus some constant number. And so that means that everything has a c term in it, and we can factor that out. We can factor c out and get c minus 10. Now we can see what two things are being multiplied together. C is being multiplied with c minus 10. So then those are the two things that we set equal to 0 and solve. This one's already solved. If it's just a c, then it's already, that's what it is, right? But here we need to say plus 10, and we get c is equal to 10. That's the other answer. So we've got 0 and 10 as our two answers, and that is D. Okay, number 27. What we're going to do here is we're going to take x squared plus 3x equals 18, and we're going to subtract 18 from both sides so that we get it all on one side and we have it equal to 0. We've got then x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0. And we're going to factor this. We have one of each sign because that constant at the end is negative. And which two numbers multiply to negative 18? I can already see this, so I'm just going to show you. I want you to be able to be at this point where you can just see it too. We've got the numbers. We need two numbers that have a difference of 3, and we've got a 6 and a 3. 6 times 3 is 18. So we've got a 6 times a 3, but we know one of them's got to be negative. Which one? Well, we need a positive amount left over. So we're going to make the 3 be negative and the 6 be positive. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18, and those two add together to be 3. So the positive number is 6, the negative number is 3, and now we're going to say x plus 6 could be the one thing that's equal to 0, x minus 3 also could be equal to 0. What are the numbers? X equals negative 6, x equals 3. Those are our two values. And where do we see them up top? 3 and negative 6. We see that in D. One more to go. All right. A little more challenging here. I like these, but a little bit more work. Let's do it. We've got 20x squared minus 11x minus 4 equals 0. And I'm going to take the a and the c values, 20 and negative 4. And I'm going to multiply them together to get negative 80. Okay? And I'm going to factor those out. We need to have two numbers with a difference of, if you look over here on the side, you'll see it's a difference of negative 11. And how do we do that? Well, we can say 1 times negative 80, 2 times negative 40, or they're opposites if we needed the sign to be different. 4 times negative 20, 5 times negative 16, and oh wow, that's them. There they are. Those two numbers will combine to negative 11, which is what we want. So, how do we deal with this? We say, okay, we're going to write the exact same thing that we had, except for instead of negative 11x, we're going to write positive 5x and negative 16x. And then we're going to group them. We're going to see what we can factor out. We can factor out of this one a 5x, leaving us with 4x plus 1. And out of this one, we can factor out, we need to factor out a negative because uh, the coefficient of the variable is negative, so we got to pull a negative out. We can pull out a -4. And if we divide that by -4, we get 4x. And -4 divided by -4 is +1. And that's good. So we've got 4x plus 1 left over for both of them. So now we've got then 5x minus 4 times 4x minus 1, 4x plus 1, sorry. And for the solutions, then we're going to take each piece and set it equal to 0. 5x minus 4, 4x plus 1, x equals 4/5, or x equals -1/4. Yeah? 4/5 or -1/4. Where is that? That is answer A. Okay, we've done the set. There are 2 more problems in the entire study guide. I'm going to do those now and get myself home.